Hey there, kiddo. Didn't expect you this late. Go on, sit close to the fire. I've got some stories you won't hear anywhere else. Every week, I dig up the darkest listener submitted tales, ghost sightings, cryptid encounters, things in the sky, and things in your closet. I'm Old Dad Guy, and I don't scare easy, but maybe you will. Don't forget to subscribe. Tuck in tight. It's story time. This next story was submitted to us by Caleb from Adams, Tennessee, titled The Bell Witch Cave. I used to laugh at ghost stories. When I was younger, I went out of my way to chase fear. Haunted houses, urban legends, dares, overnight challenges, anything to feel that buzz of adrenaline. So when I was 20 and visiting family near Adams, Tennessee, I had one thing on my mind: the Bell Witch Cave. Everybody around there knows the story. The Bell family haunted by malicious spirits in the 1800s. Voices, scratching, physical attacks. Some say the spirit was a witch. Others say it was never human at all. There's a cave on the property that's said to be its resting place, or prison. Either way, they warn you not to go in there alone. It was August, hot, thick, humid air that clung to your skin like syrup. I snuck onto the property with a flashlight and a cheap camcorder, thinking I'd film myself doing something crazy for YouTube. You know, impress the internet. And the ladies. The cave wasn't hard to find, tucked behind brush, low and wide like the mouth of something half asleep. I stepped inside and was instantly swallowed by damp, cool air. The shift in temperature hit like a wall. My breath steamed even though it was 90 degrees outside. I filmed myself grinning like an idiot. Here we are, Bell Witch Cave. Let's see if the old girl wants to chat. That's when the lights went out. My flashlight flickered and died. Total blackness. I tapped the camcorder, hoping its night mode would help, but the screen froze. Green lines across the image, then nothing. Then I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Deeper. Slower. Right beside me. I held my own breath, heart stammering. The sound continued. One breath, then another, then a faint shuffling, like something repositioned itself in the dark. I said, "Who's there?" and instantly regretted it, because it answered. A voice, low, no louder than a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." It came from ahead of me, or maybe behind. The acoustics of the cave twisted everything. The air got even colder. My skin erupted in goosebumps. I turned to run, or tried to. My foot caught on something. A rock, maybe, and I hit the ground hard. Pain shot through my arm. I scrambled, heart racing, but it felt like the cave was shrinking. Walls closing, floor sloping, every breath harder to take. Then I heard laughter. Not from one voice, from many, all around me. Mocking, echoing, and then something brushed my back. I don't remember crawling out. I must have blacked out near the mouth of the cave because the next thing I knew, I was on the grass outside. The morning sun rising, my camera was gone, so was my flashlight. I had deep scratches down my back, like fingernails. I told everyone I fell, said I was drunk. I let the story die. But sometimes, late at night, I hear those laughs again, in dreams. Or maybe not dreams. Maybe the cave didn't let me leave. Maybe it just hasn't called me back. Yet. I haven't gone into another haunted place since. Some things want to be found. Others just want to be left alone. And some, they watch. I never used to believe in aliens. Ghosts? Maybe. Bigfoot? Sure, I guess. Everybody around here knows someone with a story. But aliens? That always seemed like sci-fi nonsense for guys with ham radios and aluminum foil hats. At least, that's what I thought. Until the night I camped alone on Whetstone Ridge. It was October, the kind of night where the air's cold, but not miserable, just cold enough to enjoy a fire and a sip of whiskey. No cell signal, no people, just me in the woods. I picked a spot deep off trail near the ridge, real remote. I wanted quiet. And I got it. Too much of it. Around 1 a.m., everything stopped. No wind, no leaves rustling, even the crickets just vanished. Then the fog rolled in. It didn't drift in like normal, though. It crawled. Thick. Bluish. Glowing faint like moonlight through a dirty lens. And it came in from every direction, like it knew where I was. I clicked on my flashlight. Nothing. The beam just hit a wall of mist and bounced right back at me. Then the hum started. Low, constant, like a far-off engine, but inside my skull. It wasn't just sound. It was like something was feeling me from a distance. Then I saw them. Lights. 3 floating orbs, glowing blue, bobbing silently through the trees. They moved in sync, like they were tethered together somehow, searching. Then came the shapes. Tall. Too tall. Skin like wet clay. Long fingers dangling like vines. And eyes. Black mirrors. No emotion, just watching. They tilted their heads at the same time, like they were curious. That's when I ran. Branches whipped at my face, and I didn't look back. The fog followed, thicker with every step. I swear the trees were moving, shifting. The lights were always just ahead, like they were herding me towards something. My head started spinning. The hum turned into a scream inside my brain. Then I fell, and everything stopped. I saw things. White rooms. Bright lights. I was floating. Or lying down. Metal under my back. Figures above me. Hands with too many fingers. No mouths. Just eyes. They spoke without sound. Flooded my head with thoughts. Images. Maps. Memories. They flipped through my mind like pages in a book. And behind it all, a feeling. Like they weren't just studying me, they were remembering me somehow. Like they'd done this before. I woke up, back at my camp, sun rising, tent still up, bag untouched. Like nothing ever happened. But it wasn't a dream. Not with those footprints. 4-toed, long, way deep in the dirt. They formed a perfect circle around where I'd been lying. And then I saw the mark, seared into a tree 7 feet off the ground. A circle, a line through it, and a dot in the center. Still smoking, still fresh. They didn't just find me that night, they chose me. I never went back to Whetstone Ridge. I don't really sleep well anymore. Some nights I hear the hum again. Quiet, but closer. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I see them. This next story was submitted by Delilah from St. Francisville, Louisiana, titled The Myrtles Plantation. I don't talk about this often, and never with people from out of town. They don't understand. They laugh or give me that look like I've just told them that I saw Bigfoot riding a bicycle down Main Street. But this happened, and I remember it like it was yesterday, even though I was only 10 years old. We lived 2 houses down from the Myrtles plantation. My daddy ran a mechanic shop in town, and Mama worked part-time in the parish records office. We weren't rich. Lord, we weren't even comfortable. But back then, that part of St. Francisville was quieter. No tourists, no ghost tours. Just a crumbling old house behind iron gates, and trees so heavy with moss they looked like they were drooping with secrets. They used to call it the house with 10 murders. But don't ask me where they got that number. I only know of 2, maybe 3 that are confirmed. But the locals all said the same thing. That house ain't empty. Mama warned me, like any good Southern mama would. You don't go up there, Delilah. You don't even look at it too long. Bad things remember faces. I thought she was being dramatic. I thought grown-ups just wanted to make the world boring. I was wrong. It started in the spring of '69. I had a little dog back then, Buster, a mutt with a limp and a big heart. He was my shadow. One evening, he ran off chasing a squirrel, straight through the hedges near the myrtle fence line. I chased after him, calling, whistling, but he was gone. I stood near the rusted gate, heart pounding, staring into that property I was forbidden to enter. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the upper balcony, green dress, full skirts, like from a movie, her hands resting on the rail. I couldn't see her face, not really. It was like the light bent wrong around it, but I could feel her looking at me, not just seeing me, knowing me. I ran home crying. Mama didn't even ask why, just held me tight, whispered a prayer, and locked every window in the house. She knew. But that wasn't the end. That night, I woke up to Buster barking at my bedroom door. Only it wasn't just barking, it was growling, low, guttural, like he was facing something I couldn't see. Then the air got cold. I mean, cold. My breath fogged up the air. In Louisiana. In April. The doorknob turned. Slowly. Click. 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 And then I heard footsteps. Bare feet. Soft and dragging. On the wood floor. I froze. I couldn't scream. Couldn't breathe. Just watch that doorknob turn one more time. Then stop. Suddenly, Buster yelped and darted under my bed. I jumped up and slammed the door shut and didn't sleep the rest of the night. She came again the next week. Always around midnight. Always when I was alone. Sometimes I'd see her standing at the end of the hallway. Sometimes sitting at the foot of my bed, hands folded in her lap like a statue. Never speaking, never blinking, just watching. Once I tried to speak to her. I whispered, "What do you want?" She tilted her head. Her face was still blurry, like fog on a mirror. But I swear, I saw something like sadness pass over her, and then she was gone. It stopped after my 11th birthday, just like that. No more cold nights, no more shadows. Buster stopped growling in his sleep too, but I never forgot her. Years later, I found out the story of Chloe, the enslaved woman who wore a green turban, allegedly hanged for poisoning the family that owned the house. Most people think she's the one haunting the Myrtles, but the lady I saw wasn't Chloe. Not in a green dress, not with eyes that knew things no child should see. I think the house has layers, like grief sinking into the floorboards. Some ghosts get talked about, some don't. That doesn't mean they're not there. So, yes, I believe in ghosts. Not because I want to, because I remember. The Cry in the Pines. They always said the pines outside Chillicothe held secrets, but nobody believed it until Jared went missing. It started as a dare. Jared Price, 17, cocky and loud, was convinced Pike Forest legends were just stories. Bigfoot, Shadow Walker, whatever name the locals gave it, it didn't matter. He'd prove it was fake. With him were Casey, his quieter cousin, Lily, the skeptic, and Marcus, the one always filming. Their goal? Reach the abandoned Firewatch cabin before midnight, spend a few hours filming, then leave with spooky footage for social media. But the forest felt wrong that night. The deeper they walked, the quieter it became. Even the crickets stopped when they reached the cabin. Inside, Jared found a strange totem nailed to the wall, made of bones, feathers, and tufts of fur. Probably raccoon, Casey mumbled. Or a warning, Lily whispered. And then, just beyond the tree line, they saw the eyes. Two glowing embers in the dark. The forest held its breath. A shape shifted among the trees, tall, unmoving, too big to be anything human. A deep, wet growl followed. The group ran. Jared reached the road first. Casey followed. Marcus stumbled out, bloodied. But Lily was gone. They called the sheriff. Search parties went out. Dogs refused to go past the first pine line. The only clue was Lily's last text. Help, followed by garbled audio and one clear phrase. It's not alone. In the following days, Jared stopped sleeping. On the fourth night, he heard his name whispered from his closet. Casey found Lily's journal. The final pages read, I've seen it before, when I was 6. I told myself it was a dream, but it wasn't. It remembers me. I think it waits. Don't speak your name out loud in the woods. That's how it learned you. The next morning, Marcus was gone. In his room, carved deep into the wall, you called me. Lily awoke underground in a pit lined with roots and carvings. Something moved nearby, massive, ancient. You came back, the thing said. I marked you long ago. It knew her. It remembered her. You whispered their names. I know them now. One more, then you may go. And then Jared's voice from above. He was coming. Jared returned to Pike Forest, drawn by Lily's voice. Casey came too, scared but loyal. In the trees they found Lily, or what looked like her. She whispered Jared's name. Then the forest swallowed him. Casey wandered deeper, past eyes and whispering shadows. Marcus appeared, hollow and wrong. We're what it makes, he said. It hollows us out, leaves the voice. Below, Lily clawed her way out of the pit, bleeding but determined. She understood the ritual now. One to call, one to fall, one to fight. Casey found Jared, bound and fading. He stabbed the forest roots beneath him. The forest screamed. Jared woke. Lily arrived with a fistful of broken totem bones. Together, they fought back. The Shadow Walker revealed its true form, a twisting mass of memory, silence, and rot. Casey hurled his knife into the heart of its totem. Lily screamed the names of the lost. Jared spoke Lily's name, and the thing broke. The forest let go. They walked out of Pike Forest alive. The woods behind them fell silent. Normal, even. Marcus was never found. Jared moved far from the trees. Lily burned the bones. Casey stayed. Sometimes he walks to the edge of the woods, and when the crickets stop, he turns around. Because he knows some things should never be remembered. And some names should never be spoken. When Lydia Granger inherited the house on Widow's Hill, she assumed it was a mistake. She didn't know any Grangers in Wellsville, Ohio. The town wasn't even on her radar, just a name at the edge of a map near the Ohio River. But after the fire in Cleveland, after the divorce, after her life had come to a quiet halt, the idea of leaving it all behind for something forgotten felt right. The lawyer's letter was brief. She was the last known relative of one Miss Eloise Granger, deceased. The estate was hers. Property taxes paid, house intact. All she had to do was show up. Lydia arrived on October 1st. The drive up Widow's Hill took her through swirling fog and dead leaves. The house stood tall and narrow at the top, Victorian and tired, surrounded by iron fencing and towering black pine. A place that looked like it missed being lived in. At the gas station in town, an old woman with thick glasses dropped her coffee when Lydia mentioned the address. "You're going up there?" "I just inherited it," Lydia explained. "From Eloise Granger?" Woman stared at her, eyes suddenly misty. "Be gone by Halloween. That house don't let go of what it likes." The floors creaked in ways that felt deliberate. The grandfather clock in her foyer ticked even though Lydia hadn't wound it. Every room had a faint scent of lavender mixed with burnt wax. She unpacked lightly, a suitcase in the upstairs bedroom, a single candle for the evenings. Her first night, she dozed off, reading in the parlor. Just past midnight, she was woken by footsteps upstairs. She waited. Nothing followed. No door opened. No voice called out. When she checked her phone the next morning, there was a photo in her gallery she didn't remember taking. Blurry, low angle, of her sleeping in the parlor. The vantage point from the top of the stairs. But the next night, something knocked on her door. 3 times. Slow, deliberate. When she opened it, nothing was there, just fog. She locked every door, every window. She checked them again the next day, but each night, the knocking returned. And after it, music. A faint melody on an old piano coming from the drawing room. There was a piano there, but its strings were snapped, its keys coated in dust. The next morning, Lydia found handprints on the piano lid, too small for an adult, wet, like they'd been made by someone standing in the rain. A woman in a long black dress stood outside the house, crying. Behind her, the upper floor burned, windows blazing like eyes. But the woman never turned, never moved. Each morning, Lydia found scorch marks on the walls, her candle snuffed out. She tried to leave. Her car wouldn't start. Her phone disappeared for an entire day before reappearing on the porch swing, playing a voicemail on loop. Help me. Don't let it burn again. She tried walking down the hill. The road stretched longer and longer. After 30 minutes, she reached a sign that read, Welcome to Widow's Hill. Wrapped in yellow silk, tied with black ribbon, the handwriting inside was delicate. Eloise Granger had kept it. October 1923. Fire again in my dreams. The piano played on its own. James thinks I'm mad, but I know the house remembers. October 30th. The woman in black stands closer now. I see her in mirrors. In the windows, she says my name. October 31st. I hear footsteps above my bed. The house won't let me go. Lydia dropped the diary, looked around, realized every candle in the attic had lit itself. She heard something whisper from the rafters, her name, repeatedly, softly, and something else. You were always meant to come back. Halloween came. The town at the bottom of the hill lit jack-o'-lanterns and threw hay rides. Lydia stayed in the house. At midnight, the piano began to play. Then the front door opened by itself. Then came the fire. It didn't burn in flames. It whispered. Smoke poured from the walls. Blackened shadows danced on the ceilings. Lydia ran to the door, but the house bent around her. Rooms changed. Walls moved. The hallway grew longer. She screamed for help. Then she saw her. The woman in black, weeping in the center of the foyer. Lydia stepped forward. You're Eloise, aren't you? The woman didn't nod, didn't speak, but her tears stopped. Lydia whispered, I won't let it happen again. She reached into the flames, found the diary, tore out the final page, spoke Eloise's last words aloud. The house won't let me go. The house shuddered. The fire died. The woman faded. The grandfather clock chimed once and stopped. In the morning, the air was clear. The house was still. Lydia stood on the porch as the sun rose over Wellsville. The trees were silent. The piano was quiet. She walked to her car. The engine started on the first try. She looked back once. The house watched her, but it let her go. The Curse of Wildman Ridge. They don't print it in the travel brochures. You won't hear it from park rangers, but if you ever find yourself near Wildman Ridge, Washington, especially in the fall, you'll feel it. A hush in the trees, a weight in the fog, a silence too deep to be natural. The old folks in the valley towns know, the loggers too, the ones who've stayed sober long enough to remember. There's something in those woods, other than the trails, other than the tribes, a creature that doesn't want to be seen but never stops watching. They call it the Wild Man. There are different versions, of course. There's the nature of legends. Some say he's a man who turned beast after his family was lost in a fire, cursed by grief. Others claim he's the spirit of a Wendigo, banished from the mountains but never truly gone. Then there's a story from '94 where the search team went looking for the missing hikers. They never talk about what they found, only what they didn't. They say it started with a pair of college kids, backpackers from Seattle, Alex and Renee, young, curious, looking for adventure. They parked at the gravel trailhead just off Hollow Pine Road and hiked up into the ridge with maps, canned food, and a camcorder. They never came back. Sheriff Harmon sent up a few deputies. They found the kids' tent shredded. No cut, torn. Trees near the site bent in unnatural ways. And no blood, but a heavy smell in the air, like rot and wet fur. A week later, the volunteers went up. Among them was Hal McGregor, a retired Forest Service vet. He was the first to see the tracks. Not bear, he told the news later. Not man either. Tracks the size of hubcaps, deep. Like something heavy but careful had been walking circles around the campsite. The case went cold, but the ridge didn't. For weeks, folks in town said they heard things at night. Branches cracking, low moans from the trees. Livestock started going missing. Coyotes stopped howling. One morning, the Peterson boy, 10 years old, came running into town barefoot, covered in sap. He said something had whispered to him in the dark. Said it looked like a man made of bark. The Petersons moved south by the end of the month. By the time October rolled around, the ridge was fenced off, but fences don't stop what doesn't follow rules. A local radio host, Davey Kay, decided to do a Halloween special about the legend. Drove up to Wildman Ridge with a tape recorder, a flashlight, and a smug voice. He broadcasted live for the first hour, talked about wrestling in the bushes, played some spooky music, then the broadcast cut out. They found his van still running on the shoulder the next day. Inside, the recorder playing back a final few seconds on loop. It's standing right behind. The rest was static. The forest grew quieter after that, like it was satisfied. Ask the old timers now, and they'll tell you to stay away from the ridge, especially in October. They say the wild man doesn't kill fast. He waits, watches, gets into your head, makes you see things, hear voices you trust, smell fires that aren't burning. Some claim it doesn't even have a true form, just a shape that the forest gives to your fear. There's one man still alive who claims to have seen it and escaped, just once. He won't say what it looked like, only this. You'll think it's someone you know, someone you lost. It waits until you call their name, and then he never finishes the sentence. So if you're driving north on Route 101 and you see a break in the trees near Hollow Pine Road, keep driving. And if you hear your name spoken in the woods, no matter how familiar the voice, don't answer. Not unless you want the wild man to find you next. Ashes at Whispering Pines. Rachel loved the idea of escaping the city for the weekend. Fresh air, no Wi-Fi, no emails. Just her best friend Mia, and Mia's boyfriend Jake. They found the campsite online. Some obscure hiking forum mentioned Whispering Pines, an abandoned campground nestled deep in a forest just outside of Scranton. It wasn't on any modern map, but a screenshot of an old park ranger map gave them the general area. Jake wasn't thrilled. There's probably a reason it's not on Google, he grumbled, stuffing a flashlight into his backpack. We should go to a normal place with toilets. That's the point, Rachel said. No people, just peace. They left Friday morning, reached the trailhead by noon, and started the 3-mile hike in. It was hot, muggy, and far too quiet. No birds, no bugs, just the sound of their boots and the occasional groan of wind through the high canopy. After 2 hours, they found it. A clearing surrounded by tall pines, so tall they leaned together overhead like watching figures. There was a cracked stone fire pit in the center, and beyond that, the remains of a small ranger station. Just the frame and a rusted badge nailed to a beam. Looks like it hasn't been touched in decades, said Mia. Jake muttered, Hope that's a good thing. They pitched their tents, built a small fire, and cooked dinner. As darkness fell, the woods seemed to lean in. The trees swayed, but there was no wind. Mia swore she heard voices. Rachel joked it was the forest just saying hello. Jake didn't laugh. Later that night, with the flames popping and their sleeping bags unrolled, Rachel leaned in close. Want to hear the legend of Whispering Pines? Let me guess, Jake said. Murderous hillbillies? No, something worse. A ranger. Mia perked up. I'm listening. Rachel smiled, her face glowing orange in the firelight. Back in the 70s, this place was a real park. Campers came here all the time. But one ranger, nobody remembers his name. He started changing. Said the forest spoke to him. Said it told him to burn out the evil. Jake chuckled. Okay. They say he'd watch people from the trees. If he saw you disrespecting the land, cutting live trees, leaving trash, lighting fires and walking away, he'd come for you in the night. And do what? Mia asked. Burn you, alive. Jake rolled his eyes, but his grip on his beer tightened. Rachel went on. One night a family stayed there. They didn't put out their fire completely, just a few glowing coals. Next morning, they were gone. All that was left was charred footprints. The forest took them. Cool story, Jake said. Let's just not forget to stomp out the fire. That night, after everyone went to bed, Mia heard her name. It was faint, almost like the breeze was trying to form words. Mia. She sat up, unzipped her tent. Rachel was asleep. Jake snored a few feet away. The fire pit still glowed red, though they'd poured water on it before bed. Mia. It was closer now, behind the ranger station. She grabbed her flashlight, heart pounding. Mia. She stepped out barefoot onto the cold grass, scanning the trees. A figure stood just beyond the firelight, tall, still, dressed in a soot-blackened ranger uniform. Smoky bear hat, eyes like burning coals. You didn't listen, the figure rasped. Mia screamed. Jake and Rachel bolted from their tents, blinking into the dark. The fire was cold, the forest was silent. Mia stood frozen, eyes wide. He was here, she whispered. Right there. Jake looked around. There's nobody here. They packed up the fire again, just in case, but none of them slept. In the morning, the campsite looked wrong. Their tents had collapsed. The nylon fabric was blackened, like it had been singed. The rope was burned. Their sleeping bags were covered in ash. Did someone do this? Rachel asked. Mia bent down and picked something from the fire pit. A pine needle. But it wasn't green. It was black. And written in its delicate structure, like burnt etching, was one word. Listen. Jake wanted to leave immediately. They didn't argue. They hiked fast. Too fast. By noon, they were hopelessly turned around. The trail markers were gone. Trees seemed to repeat. The air grew hotter. Then the smoke began. Light at first, like a distant campfire, then thicker. The wind howled through the pines like voices, dozens of them, crying, screaming. Jake collapsed first. He gasped for breath, coughing up soot. His skin blistered, though there was no fire. Rachel tried to drag him, but the forest pressed in, closer, tighter. Mia screamed, but the wind swallowed her voice. And then, silence. They woke on the trailhead just a few feet from their car. No smoke, no ranger, no fire. Jake's skin was unmarked. Rachel's pack was intact. The campsite looked like a distant dream. Only Mia remembered it all clearly. Only Mia still heard the whispers. That night, in her apartment, she lit a candle to calm herself. She watched the flame dance. It whispered, "You didn't listen." She turned it off, threw it away. But sometimes, when she walks past pine trees or smells a campfire on the breeze, she hears the ranger again, waiting, watching, whispering. The Whistler in the Pines. They called it the last real forest, east of the Mississippi, tens of thousands of acres in Pennsylvania, known as the Black Pine Forest. No cell towers, no towns, and no trails on the maps that mattered. That's why Jake chose it. Every summer, he, Lisa, Kyle, and Sarah took a trip into the woods to camp and disconnect from the world. Jake had found this new spot on an old forum, an unmarked clearing deep off a logging road. Real isolation, he said, eyes lit with excitement. Nobody around for miles. They packed light, but enough for 5 days. Tents, gear, food, and 2 jugs of water. The drive alone took 4 hours. The last mile was a bumpy ride along a dirt path overgrown with weeds and flanked by towering pines. When they arrived, the clearing was everything they'd hoped. Quiet, pristine, and utterly empty. None of them noticed the crooked wooden post at the forest edge. The sign was rotted and split, but the faded red paint still spelled a warning. No camping. He whistles at night. Day 1. The sun filtered through the tall trees like golden syrup. Birds chirped, bugs hummed. They set up camp, laughing and joking as they unrolled sleeping bags and set up chairs around the fire pit. Lisa took a deep breath and smiled. This feels right. Like we're really away. Feels like they were the only souls for 100 miles, Kyle added, stretching. Let's hope so, Jake said with a grin, striking a match and lighting the first strike. They told stories and roasted hot dogs over the flames, then retired to their tents under a blanket of stars. That first night, somewhere around 2 a.m., Lisa woke to a sound. A whistle. Faint, high-pitched, slow. 3 notes, breathy and strange. She sat up. "Jake?" she whispered. From the next tent, she heard rustling. "I heard it too," Sarah said. Jake unzipped his tent and peered out. "Might be the wind through the trees." "It sounded like someone," Lisa said. They listened. Silence. Then the wind picked up, and the trees groaned in protest. They went back to sleep. Mostly. Day 2. They hiked that day, an old game trail that wound past a stream and deeper into the forest. They didn't talk about the whistle, not until night came. "I don't think it was the wind," Sarah said softly, her fingers wrapped around a mug of cocoa. The whistle last night. Don't start freaking out, Kyle said. There's no one out there. That night, though, it came again. Closer, louder, unmistakable. Kyle stood, flashlight sweeping the trees. You want to mess with us, buddy? You're trespassing. No response, just silence. And then a whistle again, farther off. They all slept poorly, blades and flashlights beside them. Night 3. They debated leaving, but Jake insisted they stay. One more night, then we go. It's probably some hunter playing a prank. He didn't start a fire that night, just sat in the dark, listening. At 1:17 a.m., the whistle came again. Then a soft snap of a twig. Kyle unzipped the tent slowly and peeked out. Nothing. Then he froze. At the edge of the tree line stood a figure. Tall. Still. Its face pale like bark or bone. Its lips puckered as though whistling, though the sound came from its throat, wrong and warbling like air through a broken flute. Don't look, Kyle whispered, backing away. Don't look at it. Lisa screamed. That's when it started walking. The flight. They bolted from the tents. No bags, no flashlights, just terror. The forest was black as pitch. Branches tore their skin. Thorns ripped at their clothes. Behind them, the whistle followed. It never got farther away. Jake tripped and fell. Kyle reached back for him. Too late. Jake screamed once, then silence. Keep going, Sarah cried, tears streaming down her face. For hours they ran. The whistle never stopped. When the first light of morning touched the trees, only Lisa stumbled out onto the gravel road, barefoot, bleeding, and whispering to herself. Don't stop running. If you hear the whistle, don't stop. Lisa never spoke of what she saw in those woods again. Not to the rangers, not to the families, not even to her therapist. The search lasted 2 weeks. They found the camp abandoned, the tents slashed, no tracks, no blood. Just a single tree with deep, evenly spaced gashes in the trunk, as if carved by long fingers. And every now and then, hikers vanish in the black pines. No sign, no struggle, only reports of hearing a strange sound the night before. 3 breathy notes. What grows beneath. Brandon kept telling himself he wasn't lost. The forest had a way of playing tricks, trails that vanished behind him, sunlight that never quite hit the ground. He'd only meant to do a quick overnight, just him, his pack, and the quiet of Deep Pine Reserve. But by the second day, the quiet was too quiet. No birds, no bugs, no wind. Only the sound of his own breath and the crunch of dead leaves underfoot. By late afternoon, his GPS was dead and his phone read no signal. The sky was the color of dirty glass, and the trees stretched taller than he remembered. Not taller, wrong. Warped somehow, like they were leaning in. He told himself it was just hunger, exhaustion, but the trees weren't the only thing changing. The ground was soft, too soft. moss that pulsed faintly beneath his boots, roots that shifted when he looked away. At first, he thought they were snakes. Then he realized they weren't moving towards something, they were moving away from him. That night, he built a fire, or tried to. The wood wouldn't burn, it hissed and popped, oily and damp, even though it hadn't rained. He lay in his tent, wrapped in his sleeping bag, trying not to listen, but the forest made him. A sound rose from the dirt. Not animals, not insects. It was a hum, low and constant, like a machine buried beneath the soil. It vibrated in his teeth. When he pressed his ear to the ground, it grew louder. He could hear breathing. On the third day, he found the crater. It was wide, at least 30 feet across, and deep. Perfectly round, like a spoon had scooped the earth. The trees around it leaned away like they were afraid. The center pulsed with a faint blue light, barely visible under the churned soil. There were no footprints, except his. He should have turned back. Instead, he climbed down. The hum grew louder, faster, almost excited. At the bottom, he found something buried in the dirt. Not rock, not metal, flesh. It rippled when he touched it. It felt warm. Then it opened its eye. He woke up in the dark. Not nighttime, complete black. His watch had stopped. His tent was gone, so was the crater. Only the forest remained, but different. The trees were dead. They were gray and crumbling, hollow like tubes. The air was thick with spores that glowed faintly, swirling in patterns that hurt to look at. And then came the noise, a long groaning creak from above. He looked up and saw the sky split open. Like torn skin, through it came something long and sinuous, covered in glistening limbs and rotating eyes. It didn't move like anything alive. It unfolded. The light it brought wasn't sunlight. It was memory. Not his. Its. And Brandon screamed as it reached into his mind, unspooled every thought, and rewrote what he was. Rangers found Brandon sitting at the edge of Deep Pine Reserve, naked, silent, covered in a fine blue dust. They said he hadn't eaten. No water, no scratches, no wounds. But his eyes weren't right. He stared at them too long, too still. When they tried to take him to a hospital, he whispered one thing before collapsing. It's not from the sky. It grew up from under us. The Rangers who found him disappeared 2 days later. Their last recorded radio message, 3 words. It's still humming. This next story comes from Louise, a retired teacher in San Antonio, Texas. Ghost Tracks of Shane Road. It's hard to explain what it's like growing up near a place that people say is cursed. We live off Shane Road in the south side of San Antonio. My parents didn't have much, but we had a little 2-bedroom house, some chickens, and a Buick that coughed blue smoke in the cold. From my window, you could see the railroad tracks that cut through town, the ones people called haunted. Everyone had a story about the ghost tracks. A bus full of school kids hit by a train, their spirits pushing stalled cars to safety. If you stopped your car on the tracks and put it in neutral, they said you'd feel tiny hands push you forward. and sometimes see the fingerprints left in the dust. I thought it was just a tale, a good one, until it happened to me. I was 14. It was summer, sweltering hot, the kind of Texas heat that makes the air shimmer. I was walking home from a friend's house after sunset, cutting behind the track road because it was faster. No one used that path much. It always felt strange, too quiet. Even the birds wouldn't linger there after dark. As I got near the tracks, I saw someone ahead, a girl, standing right on the tracks. She looked to be about my age, but dressed like she was from another time. White dress, black shoes with straps, her hair pinned back neatly. She wasn't doing anything, just standing there, staring at the trees. I called out, "Hey, you okay?" She turned to look at me and smiled, a slow, sad smile. And then she vanished. I ran the whole way home. My knees were jelly by the time I burst through the front door. Mama didn't scold me for being late. She just looked at my face and said, "You saw her, didn't you?" That scared me more than anything. Mama sat me down and told me what she never told me before, that her older sister, Carolina, had died at those tracks in 1946. She'd gone to meet friends after school and never came home. They said she was distracted by something, maybe waving to someone, and didn't see the train until it was too late. But here's the thing. Mama showed me a picture of her. Same white dress, same black shoes, same pinned hair. I started avoiding the tracks, wouldn't walk near them, not even in daylight. But sometimes I'd hear stories from classmates, from neighbors. I saw a girl on Shane Road, they'd say. She smiled at me, then disappeared. Always the same, but there's more. When I was 20, I drove out there one night with my boyfriend at the time. I didn't tell him the story. He was the type who mocked that kind of thing. The car stalled just as we crossed the tracks. Dead. Wouldn't start. We both laughed nervously until the car began to move. On its own. We were in neutral. I checked. It rolled forward slowly, then faster, until we were off the tracks completely. We got out, shaken, and there, on the trunk of the car, were small, dusty handprints. People say it's the ghost kids, still trying to save others. But I think my Aunt Carolina is one of them now, watching, waiting, making sure no one else gets hurt where she did. I visit sometimes, but I never walk, and I always leave a white flower on the tracks. She always liked white flowers. This next story comes from Hank, a former EMT from Arizona. Whispers in the Mining Town. Jerome, Arizona, clings to the side of a mountain like it's afraid to fall off. Back in the day, it was a copper mining town, full of roughnecks, saloons, and danger. Thousands of men went underground. Not all of them came back. These days, it's a ghost town turned tourist trap. But when I was working EMS in the late 80s, Jerome still had teeth. My partner and we got a call one July night. Tourist passed out near the Douglas Mansion, which had just become part of the state park. The place used to be the mine owner's home, and underneath it, miles of sealed-off shafts and tunnels, dark and dangerous. When we arrived, the man was still out cold, sprawled near the back patio. His wife said he'd wandered off during the guided tour and showed up shaking, mumbling, then passed out. We checked vitals. They were fine, except he wouldn't wake up. Then he started whispering. Not mumbling, not dreaming, whispering, clear as day, but in a language I didn't understand, like Latin, or maybe just gibberish. His voice changed, lower, raspier. He kept repeating the same two sounds. Ansel. Ansel. We loaded him into the ambulance. Halfway down the mountain, he jolted awake, screaming. Then he passed out again. When he came to at the hospital later, he didn't remember a thing. But he asked one question over and over. Who was that boy in the mine? I couldn't let it go. Something about his face, the voice, that name. I started asking around. One of the old-timers, Joe, a volunteer tour guide, went pale when I told him. He said Ansel had been a teenage mine runner in the 1920s. Got trapped in a tunnel collapse. They never found the body. For years afterward, other workers claimed to hear a boy crying from inside the sealed tunnels. They'd heard rocks shift, boots scrape, tools fall. Eventually, they welded those levels shut. Joe said the Douglas mansion sat right above them. That tourist, the one who passed out, he wandered off behind the building, right above Ansel's last known location. 2 weeks later, we got another call. Different tourist, same spot. Collapsed, same symptoms. Whispering a name. Ansel. This time, I stood outside while the fire crew checked the grounds. I swear to you, I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Like a pickaxe hitting stone. Faint, deep, below me. I got down on my knees, pressed my ear to the flagstone patio, and I heard a voice, clear and lonely. It said, "Please help me." I quit a few years later, moved to Flagstaff, but I think about that boy, trapped in the dark, still calling out after all these years. Some ghosts scream, some lash out, but some just whisper, over and over, hoping someone will finally listen. Thanks for listening to Old Dad Guy. Spooky stories for sleep and things that don't let you. If you survived the night, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the fear. New chills drop every week, right here in the dark.